The midwives, they were brilliant. They got me to squat over my husband. So he had his back to the sofa and I was kind of straddling him.
Yeah.
And then I held his neck.
We weren't a little bit like, this is how we got into this.
Yeah,
mess.
exactly.
What are we doing?
And then I went to see a breastfeeding specialist because I was like, this is agony. I remember being on the sofa and I was screaming louder than I was when I was in labour.
No.
My mum was always going, she's hungry, she's hungry. And those words were so triggering to me.
Really?
Because anytime I'd hear Nova cry and then someone would go, she's hungry, I knew it was all on me.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. Today's guest first hit off screens on The X Factor. She has a phenomenal voice, a phenomenal presence, but since then her career has just flown. It's been amazing to see you fly. You've been on Strictly, you've been on I'm a Celeb. She now hosts Strictly It Takes Two. She's a DJ. She's the founder of the Carl Kitchen. She's also the mother of a little girl. Today's guest is Fleur East.
Oh, wow, thank you. It's so funny when you hear a summary of everything you've done in that way.
It's the worst bit of the podcast for me. I'm always far more relaxed when that bit's done.
Yeah, you're like, done it now. Got the T's and C's out of the way. Yeah. I love it.
But isn't it incredible? Like you went into the X Factor because you have a phenomenal talent, but then actually where your career has gone, you still you seem to get so much out of everything that you do still, but it's taken you down a different path.
Yeah, completely different. I didn't think any of these doors would open. I don't know. I was just so naive, just wanted to sing and thought this is the platform for me. Went on the X Factor and thought, great, I'm going to have a career in music. But I never ever predicted that I'd start hosting and, having a radio show, and doing all these different things. Like it's amazing.
That's why I think sometimes like a 5-year, 10-year plan, it's all rubbish.
Yeah.
Like you can't, there are certain careers that you can't plan for because if you do, and if you're really rigid with that, you're blocking doors. You're literally putting things in front of doors that can't even possibly open.
Oh, completely. Like I know people in the industry that I came up with that would turn their nose up at things like I'm a Celeb or Strictly. Like they would never ever even consider doing something like that because they're like, no, I'm an artist, this is what I do. Whereas I've been really open to things. And I guess that's helped me kind of walk these different paths in this way.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. You've literally done that. Like I only watch 3 shows every year, right? And it's the set thing, which is Bake Off, Strictly, and I'm a Celeb. And you've done 2 of those.
Yeah.
So if you could just get yourself on Bake Off, that would be really, really great.
Not very good at baking, so
okay.
I don't know if that
You just did the first episode, it's all right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give you a handshake like I'm Paul Hollywood and we're all good.
Amazing, let's do it.
But it's just phenomenal. And now you're a mum, which is, a whole other thing to juggle, a whole other thing to navigate.
Yeah, gosh, being a mum. Wow. It's funny because you have an expectation of what you're going to be like as a mum. And I remember saying to other mums that were working around me, in years gone by, I'd always go, you're doing so well. Wow, you're amazing. But I almost said it as though it was like the thing to say.
Right.
That there wasn't much meaning behind it. I just knew it was a comfort to a mum.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand where that came from. And then now that I'm a mum, oh my goodness, those words have so much more meaning.
Talk to me also about the Carl Kitchen, because that's something that you've created, and obviously you've got amazing hair. And so why now? What is it that you wanted to do when creating it? And I wonder actually if, as a mum, having Nova, who's she's going to have curly hair,
yes,
highly likely,
yes.
So that kind of wanting to have something for her as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So me and my sister have been on a lifelong quest to find products that work in our hair.
Yeah.
And it's just been such a struggle.
Yeah.
And it would almost be like every year we'd have the debriefing of, what products have you found this year and what are you using now? And it would always be like this sharing of products and an exploration of what would work in our hair.
Yeah.
And then sadly, it came out of tragedy because our dad passed away in 2020. And through that, we got even closer as sisters. And our dad always wanted us to work together. That was his lifelong dream. He was like, I really want you to do something together. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And he loved that Kesha was a makeup artist and I was a singer and she would work with me and do my makeup. My first music video for all my shows. And he loved that. He was so, so proud. He was one of those annoying parents that would spam everyone like on his social media with videos of, Fleur's doing this now, Kesha's doing this now. And it was everywhere. He was so proud. So for us, we wanted to do something for him in his legacy and what would he want to see us doing. and sort of find some purpose, you know, through that painful time.
Yeah.
And we sat together and we just brainstormed and we just said, well, hair is the thing that we've always been so passionate about. Let's create our own range.
Yeah.
And we sat there in my living room and just did a list of, like, a wish list of what it would look like.
Yeah.
Came up with the name, Curl Kitchen, thought of all the ingredients. We were like, oh, maybe we can tie in mum's heritage from Ghana in this. So we started writing down, okra, wild yam, baobab, black soap. Could we put that in a shampoo? We just had all these ingredients, just throwing them out there. And then my sister flew to Ghana and found a formulator and started formulating, and we started trialing it. And it took 4 years to nail the formulas.
That's amazing.
And then find a manufacturer in the UK, and then actually get into Boots and then put it out there. But like you say, it's funny because obviously we didn't know how long it would take. I think naively we thought, oh yeah, we'll get it in Boots next year, whatever. 4 years later.
You start trying things as well. Suddenly getting things into Boots is such a difficult thing.
Right?
So the fact that you're out there, you're selling, people are buying, people are loving, it's such a massive thing. But I think so often people don't appreciate what the thought to actually, you know, it being on the shelves.
So we were on the journey. We were just like, okay, 4 years pass, and then I'm pregnant, and then it just so happens that the birth of my baby coincides with the same year that we finally get the chance to launch.
I love it.
So me and my sister were like, okay, we're nuts. You're about to have a baby and we're launching a business. Like, this is crazy. This timing is just not convenient. But then, like you say, I think having a child, it changes your whole perspective. And my sister, we sat down, actually had lunch the other day, and she said, you've been more involved than I thought you ever would be. And in some ways, you've been working even harder since you've had Nova.
Yeah.
And there's always this idea that being a woman, and especially when you're working and you have a career, that having a kid is going to stop all of that.
Yeah.
And that you won't be able to do anything. And so in my head, I was kind of expecting that would happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, Kesh, you're going to have to run and do this for us, because I don't know what's going to happen. And since then, I mean, the minute that I laid eyes on her, I was like, okay, no, I have even more of a purpose now.
Yeah.
Because in some ways, you're doing everything really for yourself before you have a child.
Yeah,
Obviously, you're helping your family and you do it for your family, but
you are the main
different.
part in your story when it's just you know.
Exactly. And now it's like, oh no, I need to set everything up for her. So yeah, in a lot of ways, it has spurred me on in a way that I didn't think it would.
Yeah.
I've worked even harder now.
Talk to me about your childhood, because obviously your mum's from Ghana. Where's your dad from? Where did you grow up?
So my dad was from Essex.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes.
Whereabouts?
Hainault.
Hainault?
Yeah, Hainault.
I grew up in Barkingside.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, Canning Town, then Barkingside, and then we moved out to Wingatestone.
Oh, yeah. So you know. Yeah, and he grew up in Thaden Boys.
Right, yeah.
And he was born just at the end of the Second World War. So 1945, he was born.
That's a sentence, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It is actually. I don't think I've ever said that out loud before. Yeah. And then my mother, completely different, born in Ghana, came over to the UK when she was 18 years old.
Right.
So there was a 19-year age difference between my mum and dad. And they came from two completely different worlds.
Yeah.
My mum, a devout Christian. My father, an atheist. He grew up in the hippie era. He traveled the world. You know, he was living in tents on beaches in India. And then my mum's come straight from Ghana. She had quite a privileged upbringing.
Right.
You know, her father was a politician. So they went to really good schools.
Yeah.
And then they came to the UK and their lives completely changed. And then she bumps into my dad in Leighton, in Baker's Arms. And they met. And, I mean, the two worlds collided.
Yeah.
And it's funny because obviously growing up, you don't think about these things like how your parents got together or their different worlds. But as I got older, I realised, I was like, how the hell did you two meet? And how did this even happen?
Because what was it about the other that kind of sparked off that curiosity and that desire?
Well, I've realised now that it was music.
Really?
It was their love of music that was the one thing they had in common.
Yeah.
And so growing up in Walthamstow, that's where we grew up, we would listen to music every single day. And mum would play music through headphones onto her stomach when she was pregnant with me. And then they bought me a keyboard when I was 3. And I don't remember a day ever that we didn't have music in the house. It was all day, every day. And it was just our lives. And it was an amazing upbringing.
Yeah.
Because they celebrated both our cultures.
Yeah.
So we'd have like roast dinner, And then we'd have like jollof rice and chicken. And then Christmas, we'd have all of the foods.
That's so funny. I can remember meals where we would literally have a bowl of pasta followed by a roast dinner.
Yeah.
Like, this is 2 meals, guys. What is this?
Like, this is too much. This is too much. I get it. You want us to be proud of our cultures, but this is a lot. But we loved it. We loved it. And we loved having just the dual heritage and having so much to learn and such a richness in culture. It was amazing. And they were so good at making sure that we knew both sides.
Really?
So much so to the point where I remember when I started going to school, and that's when you sort of learn about your identity and your race. You don't really know about that when you're if you grow up in a really healthy household.
Yeah.
We never really knew that we were any different, or we never knew that anyone would view us differently. And then you go out into the world, and that's when people remind you that you're different and that you're other and that you're a minority. And people would ask, oh, so what do you think you're more of? Do you think you're more black or do you think you're more white? And questions like this that blew my mind. I was like, I've never had to consider that before. What do you mean? And my dad would say, well, when people ask you where you're from, say you're Ashanti, say you're Ghanaian. And I would say, yeah, but Dad, that completely erases you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm half of you. So why? Yeah. But he was like, no, this is your culture. You're Ghanaian and that's who you are. And he almost saw that was our identity.
Yeah.
But I was always like, no, I'm mixed race. And I will always say that, yeah, my father is English and my mother's Ghanaian.
Do you think that's because he felt like, look, you're growing up in Britain. That's clearly a part of who you are.
Yes.
So that's there, no matter what.
Yeah.
But actually celebrating the Ghanaian side is that's always based. That's always going to be there. But the Ghanaian side,
yes,
like
I think
just
it was
to
that.
champion it.
I think it was that.
Plus, for him, he fell in love with your mum and all that she represents and that she is, right?
Exactly.
So, and that's a massive part of you.
Yeah. And it was amazing. And it was so good that he embraced it as well.
Yeah.
So we didn't have just mum telling us about Ghana and our culture and then dad just telling us about his culture. It was, he embraced it as well. And he would teach us about Ghana and he came to Ghana with us and he would try and make Ghanaian dishes as well. And have his own spin. And
his own spin. Served with some roast potatoes.
It's so funny because he would try and make like a jollof rice dish or there's a dish called a muto, which is like a peanut soup. And he would make that with like lamb cutlets and things like that, like a different version.
Yeah.
And then my mum would make a roast dinner that had like real seasoning and like the gravy had like pepper in it. And so we had all sorts going on.
I love that as a kid you probably didn't even question, that's an interesting tasting roast. It's just like, this is mum's roast.
Like, yeah, here we go. Yeah, mum's seasoning's kicking in.
Yeah, I love that. So just a really happy childhood full of music.
Yes, that was our lives. And our parents used to have parties all the time.
Right.
And I always say to my mum, I'm grateful to you, Mum, because I'm a great sleeper. I love my sleep. I can sleep anywhere, anytime, any place.
That's a gift.
And I think it's down to our parents because they would have parties and in the corner of the living room, we'd just be sleeping like on a beanbag or something as they were raving it up till like 3 a.m.
Is it really a party if a kid's not sleeping under a table?
Exactly. That was our upbringing. I think that was the training.
Yeah.
So now I can just sleep anywhere.
Yeah. Are you
so.
trying to instill that in Nova?
Definitely.
Just like, don't lower your voice. Just kind of just keep going, keep talking, keep the TV on, keep the music on, whatever it is.
Everything. It was funny because when she was really small, I think she was only like 2 months or something, and one of my cousins came around and my auntie was there and there was family in the house from the minute she was born. And we were all just laughing and cracking jokes and eating. And then at one point, I think it had been an hour into this conversation, and my cousin went, oh no, the baby, sorry, are we being too loud? And I went, hon, we've been shouting from the minute you walked in the door. She's good. Like, you know, because I didn't picture a household where people would walk in and be like, shh,
tiptoe.
The baby's sleep. I was like, no, we're too loud. I mean, my laugh alone would wake her up. So I was like, we can't be doing this.
You just like shock her awake every 2 seconds.
Exactly. So she's been used to, noises, sounds, music.
Yeah.
I did the same thing that my parents did with me. So I played music through headphones when I was pregnant with her. And then we play music to her every single morning. She listens to Whitney, I Will Always Love You, every morning. That's her morning song.
What do you do while she's listening to that?
I just watch her. I just look at her. And she's like, as soon as she hears it, it's like the first note, she just goes, and she knows the song and she tries to sing it as well. You just see her like trying to make the notes and stuff. It's really cute.
It's too cute. How long did it take you to get pregnant?
Well, it was funny because I sort of said to my husband, right, let's go. Let's throw all caution to the wind and let's just do this.
Yeah.
And then I think it was that month that my period came. And I remember feeling really sad.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Like, and also I think we spend so long kind of going, can't get pregnant, can't get pregnant, and worrying about being pregnant. Then all of a sudden when you want it, suddenly your period means something completely different.
I know. And then I started to feel guilty for all the years that I was so happy when my period came.
Yeah.
I started to feel really guilty.
Yeah.
And I started to think, oh, no, I didn't want it then. And I was sort of even saying prayers, like going, God, I didn't want it then, but I really want it now. Like, please make it happen. So I remember that first month my period came and I was really sad. And I said to my husband, oh, my period's come. And he was like, it's okay. Like, we're in this.
Yeah.
This could take a year. This could take 2 years. We don't know. Let's just enjoy it. And then the following month, it was around the time that my period was supposed to come. And I think this is so funny. I always say Mother Nature is so cruel because the symptoms you have for your period are exactly the same for early pregnancy, which is so twisted.
Yeah.
So I remember I was like, oh, my stomach. And then I was like, okay, yeah, but that's what early period pain feels like. And then I was like, my boobs are really sore. Again, that's a sign of my period coming. So I was like, I don't know what's happening here. But then my boobs hurt a little more than usual.
My boobs go very different when I'm pregnant. They go like, it almost feels like sponge.
Oh,
really different, yeah. So
really
the third
soft.
time around, I was like, whoa, I know what this means.
Yeah, mine was the opposite. They were like
Right.
really hard and they really hurt. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is a lot more than usual. And something just told me, like, you're pregnant. I was just like, I'm definitely pregnant because this is different.
Yeah.
And then I did one of those like little stick ones
Yeah.
that you get in the little pack. And I peed on
a
it.
pregnancy test?
Yeah,
Okay.
but not like the proper robust
Right, just
ones you get.
the line one.
The line one.
Okay, yeah.
the line one.
Not the solid pregnant, not pregnant.
Yeah, the flimsy little line one. And I did one of them. And what's so funny is that I didn't know that when you have two lines, even if the other line is very faint, that's still a positive.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I thought you had to have two really strong lines. So I peed on it. I saw one really strong line and one really faint. And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's not positive, is it? It's kind of a faint line. I'll try again tomorrow. And then I tested maybe like 3 days in a row and the second line started getting stronger and I was going, I'm really confused.
At what point did you go, I should probably just read the packet, read the instructions?
Yeah, I just don't know why.
Especially at that time, we're very used to COVID tests. We know what two lines mean, Fleur.
But I don't know why in my head I just imagine maybe it's because of like images I'd seen online.
Yeah.
Or anytime I saw a positive test, it was always two really strong lines. And I was like, one faint. I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So then on the third day, I went to the shop and actually got a digital test because I was like, let me just confirm this.
Yeah.
And I remember doing it and I peed on it, walked away. And I was feeling really nervous because I knew that it was a life-changing moment. Like this was major. And I went back to it and I saw that it said pregnant and I just burst into tears immediately. I was just overcome with emotion in a way that I didn't think I would be. I was so happy. Like I was so grateful. I just got down on my knees and I was just like, thank you. And I think it meant more to me because when you lose a parent as well, life has a different meaning.
Yeah.
And having that moment and seeing that positive pregnancy test, I don't know, it felt like something had come full circle. Like it was like I'd lost my dad, but then we were gaining a family member.
Yeah.
And it was almost like healing in a way.
Yeah.
For me and for my family.
Yeah. How did it feel? Did you do that test on your own?
Yes, I did that on my own. And then I was like, oh my gosh, my husband's not here. I was like, and then I didn't want to call him.
Did he know that you'd been taking tests anyway?
Yes, so he could see, but again, he didn't have any knowledge. So we were both, for 3 days, staring at positive pregnancy tests, not knowing they were positive, going, oh yeah, it's a faint, I don't know, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. I mean, what? So stupid. So then when I did it, I didn't want to call him and tell him because I felt like this isn't a phone conversation. I need to wait for him to get home. So I did another one just to prove that it was accurate. And then I put the pregnancy test in a Nando's takeaway box. And then when he got home, because I was thinking of all the ways I could do it, I was like, how do I tell him?
And also on the spot where you're just like, I've got an hour to sort this out.
Yeah,
but I'm also feeling a bit fizzy because I'm pregnant and this is all new.
I was like, So I put it in the Nando's box and I set up my camera and he walked in and I went, oh, I'm just filming some socials or whatever. And he was like, oh, okay. And then I went, oh, try this thing. I got it from Nando's. It's amazing. Like, this new thing on the menu. And it was like, okay. And then he opened the box and the pregnancy test was in it. And he just went, and he just dropped the box. He put his head in his hands and then he just did a lap of the living room. And I was like, come here. It's like, I need you to hold me. What are you doing? And he was just walking around going, we were just in disbelief, but it was such a beautiful moment. Yeah. It was amazing, yeah.
How was it telling the rest of your family? How was your mum?
Oh my gosh, my mum. She was, honestly, I felt like I was giving birth to her child. And I still feel like that now. I feel like I gave birth to her child. I told her and she was just like, oh, we thank you, God. We thank you, God. And then she started worshipping and singing gospel tunes and worship songs. She was like, all I'm saying is thank you, Jesus. I thank you, my Lord, for an hour. She was so happy. And everyone was so happy. My sister was overjoyed. Everyone was just, it was amazing. Like I said, it was like that healing that we needed.
Yeah.
And then I found out that her due date was 5 days before the anniversary of my dad's death. So even more so, it had more meaning because that month and around that time is always a reminder of dad passing away. So then to have a baby born in the same month, we thought she was going to come on the day.
Really?
And we were thinking, my gosh, that's destiny, isn't it? She comes on the same day. But she didn't. She came a week later.
Right.
But still, around that month now, it feels like more of a celebration.
So much joy there.
Yeah, a lot more joy. Yeah, amazing.
How was your pregnancy?
I kind of like...
You kept it under wraps for a long time.
Yeah, for like 7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you literally started the year and when 2024 is going to look a bit different and you had a massive bump and then 2 months later she's here.
Yeah, everyone was like, sorry, what? It was so funny, yeah. I remember when I got pregnant, I instantly felt very protective.
Really?
Of that whole period. I don't know why. I think I felt very vulnerable in a way that I didn't think I would. Mm-hmm. And I just landed the job for It Takes Two shortly after I found out I was pregnant. Or just before I found out I was pregnant. Yeah. So I got the job for It Takes Two and then a month later...
Hold on, so you did that whole series pregnant but managed to hide it?
Yes.
How?
Well...
Because that's until December and you announced in the January and then it's only a few months after.
I know. Very big suits. A lot of people started to clock on though.
Oh, really?
A few people were messaging going, your suits are getting really big. Like you must be pregnant. Family members were texting my sister, bless her, is Fleur pregnant? And she didn't want to lie. So she was going, ha, and just not answering. I just felt very vulnerable. And I think because I knew I had It Takes Two and I knew I was going to be on TV for 3 months while I was pregnant at my first pregnancy, I didn't really like the idea of having all the attention on me while I was pregnant. I didn't want all the eyes on me. I didn't want everyone like on bump watch, like watching me every night and kind of looking at my bump. I didn't want that attention. And I guess starting a new job as well, and as a woman.
You want to know that it's not about me, guys. It's not about my pregnancy. I can do this and this is the job. And
I was like, I just want to prove myself. I just want to show that I can do my job and that I'm a good presenter and I don't want any special treatment. I don't want anyone to treat me differently.
So did you not tell anyone at Strictly or did they know?
So I didn't tell anyone at Strictly.
Oh my God.
Which probably wasn't the best thing. My management knew and my family knew, but no one at Strictly knew. And actually after it came out, I remember speaking to the exec, Alex, and she said to me, Fleur, that was very naughty of you. She said, we could have looked after you if you told us. So in future, I don't know if there's going to be another baby, but please let us know because we like to look after you.
Oh my God, I didn't realise that. I literally thought you just kept it like in terms of like the wider, public kind of.
No.
Wow.
I don't know why. I don't know what it was. I just was like, no.
Did it at some point feel like, well, it's a secret now and I can't let this secret out because I've kept it a secret for so long?
Yeah, then it was so long. Yeah, it got to the point.
It's just awkward now. I can't tell you that I'm 7 months pregnant.
Right? It got to the end. I think it was the last show or the last 2 shows and I was in my dressing room and just before I went out, I think I was wearing a jacket that had like a little tie around it.
Yeah.
My bump was quite big then. And my sister looked at me and went, Fleur, and I went, do you know what? I said, it's the last episode. Let's just get it in the can, all right? And then we can just live our life. And she was like, Fleur, you can see your bum. But at that point, I didn't really care as much.
Yeah.
But I guess I just wanted to experience that for the first time privately. I didn't want everyone to be involved in it in that way. And I think the minute that I wrapped on It Takes Two, I remember I got home I took the suit off, undid the buttons and was like, oh, and just let my bump pop. And I was like, I cannot wait to just walk around now and just be pregnant.
Yeah.
But then because I wasn't on TV, I felt free. I felt liberated. But I also really loved that only I knew. So there were moments where, for example, I'd be on the radio doing the Hits Breakfast show and I'd just put my hand on my belly, at a certain moment, or a certain song would be playing and I could feel Nova like kicking. And I'd be like, And it was nice that I had my little friend with me and no one knew. That I loved. I really, really enjoyed that.
When you're pregnant, then you're suddenly faced with this whole new world where there's all these options and you don't know what you're going to go down. Yeah. But your aunt's a midwife as well.
Oh, yes. So my Auntie Tina.
How much did that, what was her input? Did she give you any advice or, how did you handle all those options suddenly?
Well, I think because I always knew that I wanted to be a mum, I used to ask my aunt loads of questions. So for years, I would sit down with her and go, so then what happens if the baby comes out like this? And then what happens if... So I knew a lot about childbirth over the years. And I almost knew immediately that I wanted my aunt to be there. Just because it made sense. She's my auntie, she's a midwife, she knows, she's qualified. And it'd be nice to have another family member there who knows what's happening to reassure me and my husband. And she actually advised me to look into hypnobirthing.
Right.
And then I found Emiliana, who's part of the Mindful Birthing Group. And the minute she came into my house and she started talking about hypnobirthing, I was like, this is right up my street, actually. Because I've always been... I guess I put a lot of focus on my mindset in everything that I do. I always like to have a positive outlook. I like to see the silver lining in everything. And that kind of just gets me through life in a way that I can enjoy things and I can take lessons from the negatives and not always be cynical and not feel negative all the time. So immediately when Emiliana was like, this is all about mindset, you reframe birth, you choose the wording, you kind of just look at things in more of a positive way. Yeah. You allow your body to go through the motions. You trust the process.
You don't fight against it.
You don't fight it. Yeah. Exactly. And I was like, this is brilliant. This is great. And immediately it got me excited about birth. Whereas I think I was more anxious before. Yeah. And then it just reframed everything for me. And I started listening to affirmations every day. Yeah. I would meditate. I'd think about the joy of, meeting my baby and just the process, and I was really excited for it. And then I had I need to shout out all my midwives as well because they were so amazing. I had Kathy, Alison, Aisling and Sam. They were all so brilliant. And they understood as well that I'd done hypnobirthing. So they were fully supportive of that. Yeah. And I just went through it at home. I was in the bath at one point. I had a birthing pool at one point. My husband was filling up the birthing pool with saucepans of water. Just getting saucepans and just chucking it in.
Had you done a dummy run of filling up the birth pool? Right, okay.
No, we hadn't. So that was interesting. Yeah, in hindsight, maybe we should have done that.
But you don't know how long it's going to feel, how long it takes.
Right. But I remember, because I learned in hypnobirthing about releasing the oxytocin and having positive, happy hormones.
Yeah, just letting go, let him do it.
So I was watching, I remember in the early labour stages, I was watching Sister Act. Yeah. I was watching all my favourite movies and just laughing and eating and just trying to ride the waves. And then I got into active labour. Right. And it hit. Okay. And I was in so much pain. It was ridiculous. I remember I was on the floor. I was naked, just laying there, just going, ah. I was like, what is this pain? I was thinking, why don't people tell you? I mean, people tell you. Yeah. But when it hits you, you think,
but also
why?
When you go down the hypnobirthing route and it's all about breathing and kind of refocusing that pain as, surges or, the intenseness of it or whatever. You're kind of I can do that. But then, you can't say birth isn't, there is pain involved. God, you're pushing something out of your body. Your muscles have to do something to expel that baby.
Oh, yeah. And do you know what's so funny? I think before I'd actually got into labour, before I even knew what it was about, I remember I kind of tried to compare it to a workout session, right? So I was like, okay, so it's like a HIIT circuit, right? So I do 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest, 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest. I was like, I can do that as long as I have rest. No one explained, and I feel like I need to say this, no one explained that when it gets intense, there is no break. That's what no one told me.
Also, it depends on the baby's position and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is no break. So there was a point where I just felt like it was one long contraction for 3-4 hours. And I was going, where's my break? Where's my break? And everyone was like,
was she pushing on something?
She was just coming down. She was just coming down.
Yeah.
She was in perfect position. She was in great position, but I was just in agony.
It.
I was feeling everything. She was moving as well.
Also, I know that we're all humans, but our bodies are different, right? Our bodies are unique and individual. Like, who's to say what one person experiences is the same as someone else? So it's, that was your experience.
Right,
and,
exactly. So then I remember laying on the floor. I was on my back, butt naked, and Aisling, my midwife, walked in and she went, hi. And I was like, hi. And she went, I don't think I've ever turned up to a home birth and found a woman on the floor like this. And she said, would you like some gas and air? And I was like, yes, please. So I just took the gas and air. I went through 4 cylinders.
Whoa.
4 canisters of gas and air. I was just taking it like there was no tomorrow. It was my saviour because I didn't have anything else. And
Well, I guess
just
also it helps you remember to breathe,
yeah.
which we know is important.
But there was a point where I think Aisling was going, slow down, Fleur, slow down. We don't have unlimited access. We don't. And I was like, call whoever it is that makes the gas and air and get it pumped into the house.
Call the gas and air guy, quick.
Yeah, I was like, whoever you need to call, just call them because this is amazing. And then it turned into quite a fun experience because then I was joking about because I was just... kind of just, I don't know where I was.
Loose.
I was loose, yeah. I was just making jokes. It was so funny. And then at one point, I think I said to Aisling, my midwife, I said, God, it's so painful. Why is it so long? And then she went, gosh, think about as well, like the time it took to create a baby. And then here you are in labour and it's all happening. And I went, well, it didn't take that long. And I was making all these jokes and like, it was so, I was a different person as soon as the gas and air came out. And then they tricked me into getting into a squat position because I was reluctant. I didn't like the feeling.
Was it too much pressure?
Yes. And as soon as I could feel the baby coming down, I resisted.
Right.
So I was kind of resisting and pulling all my muscles up and doing the opposite.
Yeah.
And they were like, Fleur, you need to get in a good position here because this baby's not going to come. So they were trying to get me into a squat for ages and I was just fighting them all off. I was grabbing everyone.
Also, the birthing pool's just gone out the way.
Our birthing pool was out the window. I stayed in that for the first 2 hours.
Okay.
But then as soon as I was out of it, I didn't want to go back in.
Right, okay.
Because I was comfortable where I was.
Yeah.
And then my husband was like, do you want to feel the pool? And then the midwife at one point went, hun, she ain't getting in that pool. I don't know how to explain this to you.
For him, though, must have been like, this is something I can do. Let me get the saucepans out again.
He was like, I've never seen you in a vulnerable state like that, ever. I've never heard you say the words, I can't. I've never seen you lose control like that.
Yeah.
He said, you've always been so resilient. You've always been like, I'm going to do this. I can do this. And that was the first time that I said I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do this. Meanwhile, all of that is going on. My mother and my grandma walk in the door.
Oh.
And I was kind of like, it was a blur. And I was thinking, am I hallucinating? Did my mum and my nan just walk in? And then they just went straight upstairs. So because they wanted to stay out of the way.
Right, okay.
And then they started praying. So there's a whole prayer situation going on upstairs.
And I'm
in agony
guessing from what
downstairs.
you've said, your mum's not a quiet prayer. Like, is she singing songs by this point?
I didn't even hear anything. I was just in my own little world. And then somehow the midwives, they were brilliant. They got me to squat over my husband. So he had his back to the sofa and I was kind of straddling him.
Yeah.
And then I held his neck.
We weren't a little bit like, this is how we got into this.
Yeah,
mess. What are we
exactly.
doing?
Why are we back here? What is it? And I grabbed onto his neck and I was just like, I can't do this. And he was like, listen, we need to meet our baby. You want to see our baby, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, listen, make sure you listen to them because they know what they're doing. And he was so calm. And then I was just pushing and pushing. And suddenly everything stopped. The pain just went and it was silent. And then I just went, what's happened? And then my midwife said, your baby's here. Do you want to get your baby? And I was like, huh? And then I just reached down and I just pulled her up and I just held her and I was like, oh my goodness. I think I was in a state of shock.
Yeah.
I thought, because I'm such a crier, I thought I was going to cry immediately and be overwhelmed with all this joy. And I was just in shock. I was just looking going, huh? How did this come out of me? I was just, what? And then my mum came down the stairs and then my nan came down the stairs And this comes back to what I was saying about I didn't realize the significance of having a baby girl, because they came down the stairs. So we've got 3 generations in the room. And then my midwife said, oh, do you want to see what you have? And I was like, oh, goodness. So I haven't even checked if we have a girl or a boy. And then I looked and I was like, and I looked at my husband and we'd already picked out the names. And I just went, it's Nova. And he was like, it's Nova. And we were just there. And then it just hit me in that moment how powerful that was, that we had 4 generations of women in one room in that moment.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful to just have them around me.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole process, I just view my mother in a completely different way.
Really?
I'm just so thankful to her all the time.
Yeah.
I just think, because she had me when she was 24.
Wow.
And I think, wow, at 24, I don't know if I could have gone through all of this.
Yeah.
And then even the sacrifices, just like going through the motions. Because in the beginning, I felt like everything about motherhood was happening to me. Like everything was coming at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out of control. I couldn't control anything. It was just like my body wasn't my own. I think that's another thing that's weird, because during pregnancy, your body changes, but you can almost embrace it more because it's a purpose.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm growing my baby. Yeah, my belly's bigger because my baby's growing. This is amazing. It's a symbol of your baby growing, quite literally. And it's amazing. And you can connect with your baby and you feel your baby and all this. And then as soon as your baby's born, your body is completely different and you're not carrying a baby anymore. And you're just like, who is this?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what this body is anymore. And it felt so different. And my bump was still there. And I mean, and I'm bleeding and I can't move. Like my hips were in so much pain. And
Really?
I was like, I couldn't walk properly for like 4 days straight. I just couldn't even move. And I remember just thinking, wow, my mum did this. The whole time I just kept thinking, Mum, you did this.
Yeah.
You did this twice.
Oh.
Like, what?
You went, I think was it a doctor you spoke to, and you said, when am I going to feel like me again?
It was Sarah Tyler. I went for a mummy MOT, which is the thing, again, I didn't know about until Emiliana told me about it when I was doing my hypnobirthing. She said, please, if you can, go and get a mummy MOT, go and get checked. And not many people I know, actually, none of my friends that have had babies have had this.
It's that thing, isn't it? It's because, is it because it's the women's sector, but mummy MOT, going to see a women's pelvic health specialist, you know, all of that stuff. I think it's so important, but it is, the care is there, but it's often at a cost to the mum, you know, and that's the sad thing, because actually so many people would benefit from being able to go and see people that just kind of know what a mother's body has gone through, what's going on in their mind, what's going on in their body.
And I remember just laying on the table, and it was like my first physio, and I was just kind of getting examined and seeing where I was at and what damage had been done or what I had to heal from. And I just looked at Sarah and I just went, am I ever going to feel normal? Will I ever feel normal again? And she just went, yes, yes, you will. And in her laugh and kind of just how she reacted, I was like, okay, this is just a blip right now.
And I'm not the first person.
And I'm not the first to ask that as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I never thought, though, that I'd come out of that time.
Really?
Looking back now, though, months later, it's such a small part of
that is
the journey.
Crazy, isn't it? Because in the moment when you're going through it and you feel like it's all consuming and it's all new and you're feeling out of your depth, that feels like life. That is like, that's it. And you can't see beyond.
No.
You can only see what is.
Yes. And I remember in those moments, and so many parents say this, but I remember in those moments going, why does no one tell you about this bit? And I was like, all my friends have had kids. They never told me about this. They never said that I was going to feel like this. They never told me that I had to wear these disposable nappies for weeks. They didn't tell me like all these things. But then now I understand why, because when you get through that, you look back and you go, oh, yeah, that was only like a couple of weeks, whatever.
Yeah.
So you forget that.
Yeah.
And then now I've even done it. I'm guilty of doing it to people that are expecting now. And I'm going, oh, it's going to be amazing. Because now I'm through that time. And now I understand why people don't go, oh, babe, you're going to bleed for 3 weeks. You're going to feel like hell. You're going to, and there's so many things that, but it's because it is only a moment in time. And then there's so much exciting things to come. There are so many exciting things to come. So
it's hard though, isn't it, when you have a vision of what that time's going to be and you're presented with something different.
I mean, when I was breastfeeding, my goodness, breastfeeding is a whole other chapter.
Well, how did you find it?
Oh my goodness. I put so much emphasis in my mind on the pregnancy and the birth.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
so
didn't
funny,
think
isn't
about
it?
anything else.
That one day. It's like the wedding day. We all really look forward to the wedding day. Forget the marriage part. That will just sort itself out. But the wedding day is the important bit. Yeah. And it's exactly the same. Birth, your baby will come out. But the rest of it, that's what you've really got to pay a bit of attention to.
I was like, oh. So I, in my head, thought, baby's going to come out. I'll just be breastfeeding. I'll be, Mother Nature. Milk's going to be flowing like the rivers of Babylon. I'm just going to feed my baby. It's going to be easy. I didn't even think there was even an issue with that. I remember going to a baby show and someone spoke to me about formula and I was like,
because you think it's literally just a choice. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Either you're going to formula feed or you're going to breastfeed. Like you're just going to choose one and you're going to do it and it's easy.
I was like, I don't need, all right, fine. Tell me about the formula. I don't need formula, but cool. People were telling me about bottles. I was like, I don't need none of that. I was honestly so smug before I'd even begun. I don't even know who I thought I was. And then next minute, I'm breastfeeding in the first few days. Nova is screaming constantly. And my mum was always going, she's hungry, she's hungry. And those words were so triggering to me.
Really?
Because anytime I'd hear Nova cry and then someone go, she's hungry, I knew it was all on me.
Yeah.
And there was even one point where I was like, well, I don't know what she's going to do then, because she's going to have to get food somewhere else. Because right now, I'm done. I was like, my boobs were in agony.
Really?
I was in so much pain. The thought of her latching on in the first few days, I was like, I can't. I was like, I love you so much, but this is so painful.
I remember a friend of mine messaging me saying, when you feed, clench your butt, kick in your heels. 10 seconds, it'll be fine. And thinking, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
What is this?
That makes sense.
But it is that kind of, that letdown, that burn, that kind of feeling.
The burn.
And actually, when you're saying about, she wants to feed, I can remember my father-in-law holding Buzz, my firstborn, and Buzz was crying. And I remember that fear when he said, he wants his mummy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost dread.
Yes, it was that. And I was like, oh gosh. And then I was thinking, this breastfeeding thing is not really what I thought it was going to be. And then I think it was around day 5 or 6 and the health visitor came round. Big up Hayley. We're like really good friends now. But she came round and I'll never forget this day because she weighed Nova.
Yeah.
And I'm there just filming it like, oh yeah, she's getting her weigh in. This is cute. I think it was like the second weigh-in that she had. And as soon as she'd been weighed, Hayley was really quiet. And I was like, what's going on? What's happening? And I put my phone down and she just went, well, she's dropped quite a significant amount of weight here. And I was going, yeah. And then she said, really at this point, we would take her in to hospital and feed her. Because it's quite significant. And I was going, what? And she goes, but I'm going to show you how you can top her up at home and I'll give you a day to kind of do that and then we'll weigh her again tomorrow. And I just burst into tears immediately. And it's funny because when she walked in, she asked me how I was and I was like, yeah, I'm all right, a bit tired, but whatever.
But
and
she was face as well.
She was looking at me and she was going, okay. And then as soon as that news came in, I broke down. I lost it. It was such a big cry. And I hadn't cried since giving birth.
Really?
I hadn't had a cry. It was weird. I was kind of just...
That's a long time to keep it in.
Yeah, I was just going through the motions and everyone was going, oh, you're going to cry day 2. Whatever. And I was kind of going through the days and it wasn't happening. And I was going, As soon as I opened the floodgates, that was it. I couldn't stop crying. I was crying constantly. All that day I was crying. Hayley, bless her, was like, oh no, you're going to remember me as the woman that made you cry. And she was hugging me. She was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're going to find a solution. We're going to top her up. I'm not saying you're never going to breastfeed again. We just need to do this for now, just to get her weight up.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how it goes. And in that moment, I remember just thinking, wow, I was so stupid. I thought this was going to be so easy, like this part of it.
But it's not stupidity though, is it? It's that it's walking into the unknown. And in the same way that you don't know how birth is going to feel, you don't know how or how your body's going to do that. You don't know how your body's going to feed. You don't know what that's going to feel like. You're learning, Nova's learning. And, it takes so long to work out. I mean, some people are lucky.
Yeah.
The majority of people aren't.
Yeah. And I remember after topping her up and stuff, from the first few feeds, she was like a different baby.
Really?
She was so peaceful because she was fed.
Yeah.
She had enough. And I remember then feeling a bit relieved that we'd found a solution, because ultimately I was just like, I just want her to be okay.
Yeah.
Just want my baby to be okay. And then something else kicked in at that point, and I became even more determined to breastfeed her.
Why?
Which is really weird.
What is that? Yeah.
I don't know. I was just like, okay, right, no. What do I need to do? Because I was like, no, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be taken away from me. And I really want to feed my baby. And I'm going to do this. So I then just started just eating everything, eating the oatmeal, taking the fenugreek or whatever tablets, just doing everything. I started to pump to try and activate the milk supply, and I was doing everything. And in the early stages, it was quite difficult because I would pump and there would be hardly anything.
Well, that's a supply and demand thing, isn't it? So if she's not been getting the milk, that your body thinks, oh, it doesn't need that much.
So there was nothing.
Yeah.
And there were moments where, and this sounds so silly now looking back, but there were moments where I would pump, and if any family was around, I would go somewhere else to take the pump out because I felt ashamed that there wasn't enough milk in there. I felt ashamed that that was my supply. And I would breastfeed her. And then because we were in the momentum of like topping her up after every feed with formula, I would breastfeed her. And then if she'd start crying, the words, and I know that no one meant this to trigger me, but the words that would fly around would be, oh, it's not enough, we need to top her up, or oh, she hasn't had enough, or she's still hungry.
But you take it on as you are not enough. Like what you're giving is not enough.
That's exactly how I felt. And I felt like every time I heard, oh, it's not enough, it was like someone was kicking me while I was down. That really, really affected me. And I remember I spoke to my husband about it, and I was just like, I feel so bad. Like, can you please not use the words not enough, or can you just be mindful of what you're saying when we need to feed her and stuff, because it really affects me. And he listened and he was like, oh my goodness. He said, I didn't even realize it was affecting you this much. Don't put pressure on yourself. He was like, she's fed. Look at her. Yeah. She's a happy baby. Like, why are you stressing yourself? Like this, as long as she's fed and she's happy and she's healthy, that's the most important thing. He was like, don't stress. And that kind of gave me a bit of relief.
But also you need your body to be relaxed, to release the oxytocin, to be able to let down your milk. So, but for so many of us, it's that feeling of desperation, of wanting to do it right and to be enough, that we kind of clam up.
Exactly that. So the minute I had that support, and I knew I had that support, I then relaxed a lot more, continued to pump. My milk supply increased. I then started to feed her far more than I was giving her the bottle. We had a lovely moment, like 2 months solid, where it was literally mainly just breastfeeding, maybe a bottle at night. Yeah. And I was like, this is great. And then I was in the flow and I was like, I'm loving this. And then I got nipple thrush.
This happens. Yeah.
Another thing I didn't even know existed.
So nipple thrush, which then goes to your baby's mouth as well, right? Because I thought thrush growing up was the thing that you have to avoid, you know, when you're having sex and stuff. But no.
Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you how painful.
Really?
It was like stabbing pains in my breast. So I'm feeding her. We're on a roll. We've had 2 months solid. We're doing great. Boom. Now I'm feeding her, and the pain was excruciating.
Is it just pain?
Pain, yeah, itchiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anyone who might be listening that's like, oh, just like the sort of signs and symptoms of it, I guess.
Yes, pain, itchiness, you get flakiness around your nipple. You can see that something's up.
Yeah.
So I was just popping paracetamol every day. I was popping about 4 or 5 a day, just trying to keep up with it all.
Yeah.
And then I went to see a breastfeeding specialist because I was like, this is agony. I remember being on the sofa and I was screaming louder than I was when I was in labour.
No.
From the pain of this nipple thrush. And I was like, how is this even happening? I was concerned it was something more. I didn't know what it was because I hadn't been diagnosed.
Yeah.
Finally went to see a specialist. She put me on antibiotics. I had a cream. I could still breastfeed through it. I chose to pump through that as well, just to give myself a bit of relief.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise then you've just got bricks on you. Yeah.
And then at that point, I was going, maybe this is the end. Maybe I've run my course with breastfeeding. I can call it a day. But something still was like, no, I'm going to keep going.
But again, it's that choice thing, isn't it? Like both of those times, it's someone else coming in or something happening which stops you from doing it or, you know, could step in the way. Whereas actually, I think it's a very different thing for you to be able to go, this is it.
Exactly.
And in a control, you're in control of that.
So I pushed through the 3 weeks of antibiotics and pain and dread again, that I had the same dread I had in the beginning when I first started breastfeeding of the pain. Because immediately after she would feed, that's when the pain would happen. So I'd be feeding her, loving the moment. And
but
just
it's so
knowing,
different to how it was before, when you're dreading her going on, now you're dreading her coming off.
Yes, exactly. Wow, such a roller coaster. Then I got through that and then we were on a nice steady road. And then now we're at the point now where it's naturally just sort of come to an end. Like she's kind of getting to the point now where she's like, you know, I'm good, Mum. I don't really need to breastfeed anymore. Like she's not really interested anymore. So it's naturally sort of come to an end. Yeah. Which, like you say, I feel more at peace with because it's happened for us and not to us. Yeah. But breastfeeding, wow. And I did not understand what a movement it was.
Well, you were part of the campaign.
Yes.
Free the breast?
Free the feed.
Free the feed.
For LV, yes.
Yes. Which I saw, it's amazing.
It was only, I think I posted something on socials and it was just like, oh, mum life. And it was like a carousel post. And one of the pictures was me breastfeeding. Yeah. And the amount of messages I got from people, women just saying, thank you so much for normalizing this. Thank you for showing that once you get through the hard bit, it is actually a really pleasurable thing and it's amazing. And I showed it to my husband. I went, look at these messages that I'm getting. And he was like, wow. And then he also understood and he was like, okay. He was like, I understand now more where the determination came from as well for you. Yeah. Because it was something that you found power in and something that you really wanted to be able to do for your baby. Yeah. And then I think because of that, I was more defiant in public because of the journey.
Because it's not just a simple thing of putting a baby on a boob. Like you've done a lot to get here. Yeah. And no, I will not be shamed to go in and doing it in a toilet because you wouldn't have your sandwich on a toilet. So why's my daughter got to feed on a toilet? And
then I didn't get, once I started to understand what the movement was, I then didn't understand what the resistance was. Yeah. So then I was more like, well, I don't get it.
Why is this
I'm feeding my child. Why is this a problem? And then also because now I knew how difficult it can be to even have the privilege of breastfeeding your child, I was like, I should be able to do this wherever I want, actually. I think there's so many elements to this journey of parenthood that you don't consider. And you can't consider all of it because there's so much that happens to you. But I guess being prepared for anything, not being, you know, that person who turns their nose up at a formula conversation before you've even had your baby. Yeah. That was me going, I don't need that. And the next thing that was what got me through the first 3-4 weeks of my baby's life, and being open to everything and all the elements and all the options and all the choices, and being able to accept that maybe what your expectations are won't be met, and you just kind of have to go with it and go with the flow. And I think the more that you relax and you don't put pressure on yourself, the more that you can actually enjoy it.
Becoming a mum must have made you think about your dad more, you know, that feeling of him not being here to meet Nova, to see you as a mother, you know, and knowing what input he had on your life and how that has made you who you are.
Oh, so much. I remember in the first week that Nova was born, I was just going through my phone and, you know, after a long night feed, going through my phone and looking at pictures and videos of my dad, and I was there for about an hour just looking at videos of him and just sitting there just crying, just looking at video, just thinking, I would have loved to see my dad here and to see his reaction and to enjoy this next chapter, and he's not here. One thing that I'm grateful for, and this is really weird, but when we were, I think it was a few years before my dad passed away, maybe 5 years before, we went to dinner, me and my sister Kesha, with our dad. Yeah. And it was just a random afternoon. And my sister decided to prank my dad. It was really random. I don't even think I've said this to Kesh. But we were sitting there and she went, Dad, Fleur's got news. And I just went along with it. You know, sisters do. I was like, yeah, I've got news, Dad. And he was like, what? What is it? And she was like, Fleur is pregnant. And I just was like, okay, we're going with it. Just went along with this prank. And my dad was like, oh, darling. Oh. And he was like, you're having a sprout. That's what he said. And he reacted and he was really happy. And then obviously immediately my sister went, well, no, Dad, she's not having a baby. And he was like, oh, right, okay, gosh. Oh, okay.
But you have that reaction.
But I have that reaction. So I'm almost grateful that I have that reaction, because I guess that's the only thing I do have, you know. That's the only way I can imagine he would react if I did tell him that I was pregnant. And I remember my uncle Sean, who's a photographer, he came round when Nova was, I think, 3 weeks old. And he came and took pictures of her in our house. And there was a moment where we were up in her nursery and we were sitting in her little feeding chair, and my husband was holding Nova and I was standing next to him and my uncle was standing over us taking a picture of her. And he just put the camera to the side and he went, oh, your dad would be in his element right now, wouldn't he? Yeah, my dad would have, he would have loved it. He would have loved it. Yeah, it's really sad. It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
It really is. Because like I said, she's been the healing in all of that, but then he's not here to see her, so it's kind of like I constantly to and fro between the emotions. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, and that the thought of the anniversary of his death and her birthday being so close together as well. So
it always happens that way.
Yeah,
and it's strange actually, the cycle, because it comes first with my dad's anniversary, then Nova's birthday, and then 2 days later is my mother's birthday. And it's all in the same month.
Do you think, though, even with that, it's kind of like after the sadness comes the joy, and actually it's almost getting you ready so you can enjoy your mum's birthday as well? And maybe if Nova's birthday wasn't there, it wouldn't, push her into that.
Exactly. We have the moment that we can still grieve our dad on that day. Then we celebrate Nova on her day, and we celebrate Mum on hers.
Yeah.
So it's kind of all worked out in the right way. Yeah.
Fleur, if you could write a letter on motherhood, who would it be to and what would you say?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Who would I write it to? Maybe to my sister, Kesha, and just say, this is going to be a wild ride, but it's so personal to every single person, and your journey will be yours and it will be beautiful.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything like mine. It doesn't have to look anything like mine. And you're going to learn so much about yourself, and you're going to love yourself in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what motherhood has done for me. And I'm excited for her, because I know that there's so many amazing qualities in her that she hasn't explored yet.
I love that. I love that a lot. Fleur, we end the podcast with you completing 3 sentences. The first one is being a mum means.
Being a mum means that my smile is different.
You've said this before, and I've actually got it written down in my notes. My smile is different since you came into my life. Oh, I just absolutely love that.
Like, I thought I knew joy before. I thought I knew love before. And I know it in a completely different way. And I can see myself, like any picture I have with her, my smile is different.
Next sentence. Since having a child,
Since having a child, I am more motivated than I've ever been before.
And I'm happy when?
Ooh. I'm happy when Nova's happy.
Fleur, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've loved this chat.
It's been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.